E te iwi tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora everybody, Che Wilson from Te Pai Pai Waho, sending out a big mihi to everybody tonight. And as we prepare for this Kauhau, I'll just open us up with a little karakia. Tonight's karakia I'm going to do is a tātai, a basic tātai that you'll find in my book. E tu, te mauri e, no runga no rangi, rangi nui e. E tu, te mauri e, no raro no papa, papa tua nuku. E tu, te mauri e, hei oranga mo te tangata e hai. Nō reira, kia ora tātou. Mihi ana kia tātou. As I said earlier, Che Wilson here from Che's channel, Te Pai Pai Waho, e mihi atu ana I roto I tēnei pō, tēnā koutou kia ora tātou. And it's season for kaupapa number 14. And I'm starting a new kaupapa for this month as we prepare for the Māori New Year that starts around the 3rd of July. And so I'll probably do my live for the new year the first week of July. And so the kaupapa for tonight is around ceremony and ritual, and how we bring ceremonies and rituals back into our whānau lives, back into our homes, and how do we do things so that we don't need to wait for a kaumātua or for the hapu or for the iwi to do something. Yes, continue to have those wider gatherings, but how do we normalise ritual and ceremony within the house? So that's a kaupapa. Hoi anō. I want to send out of a bit of a mihi to a few people. I roto I ngā ahuatanga o te mate. Mel, I wareware au I a koe I te rā wiki, kei te tuakana e moe. Tatu atu ki a koe oki Sarge. Tairawa mai ki tō tātou tamaiti. A Riley te weekend nei. I te rā mokopuna oki. I te toke rau. Tatu atu ki a koe auntie, e wai, paki, e moe. Koutou kia koutou, tātou kia tātou. Also want to send out a big mihi to taringa. As you can see, got my taringa top on, and was privileged to be part of the Bro Praones kaupapa last week, me and Rangi, and so we'll be on the episode 200 for them, which will come out later next month, I think. Actually, I'm not sure I was supposed to share that. Well, no. Want to acknowledge that. So, moving back to our kaupapa, which is around ceremonial and ritual, and how do we revive, how do we bring back ceremonies and rituals back into our daily lives and keeping those practices alive at home rather than just waiting for them to be performed at the marae or at a hapu or community gathering. And as I promoted them last week, here's Kaitahi, and I've got their berry smoothie tonight. So I'm going to do a few sessions tonight. One is an overview of what I'm going to cover throughout the rest of the few weeks before we enter into the new year, the new Māori year. And so episode 1 is an overview. And so what do I mean by reviving ceremony and ritual? In the secular world we live in, things have become extremely relaxed. And that's all good. But there are some things that are really good to revive for us to get used to, but also to help us to connect in with our wairua and with our atuatanga. And so over the next few weeks, I'm going to cover basic karakia we could be doing as well as other little rituals, whether you do it after your karakia, so acts of gratitude and appreciation, whether you call that whakamoemiti or whakawhetai or other words. Whether you do that at karakia, you might do it at the dinner table. So how we do those different things, as well as what are some other rituals or pure that we should be doing regularly. And I've talked a lot about this with regard to the why, clearing ourselves. I've also referred to in the past around rites of passage. And then how do we revive some other ceremonies and the hautapu or the matariki or puanga ceremonies where there's a heap of resources that have already been developed. So I'll promote those, but also what are some of the other things that we could be doing so that we're learning how to connect to our atuatanga in an everyday way. And a classic example of what I mean is whenever I harvest anything from my garden, I will always make sure that if it's edible straight away, I'll offer a portion of that to my little tuahu that I have in my garden. I've got a little ahu where I offer that up and I leave that for nature. Whether that's my raspberries or lemons or feijoas or apples or other things from my garden that might need cooking. And so the first time I cook something, I'll usually get a portion of that and take a bit of that back up. Either open up the window and let the steam out as I cook it, or I'll just place something at the window and then take it out later. And so those are just different ceremonies and rituals. And that's what I mean. How do we revive them at home? How do we make them everyday practices at home so that we are living the teachings and it's not just theory or academic, but actually, seeing somebody there, it's just reminded me I've got to do something. Kapai, thank you. But what it does is the more that we talk about this stuff and the more you give it a go in the safety and comfort of your own home, was the safety and comfort of your own home that will help you connect to your atuatanga, to your wairuatanga, and to make it work for you. So that's what we'll be talking about. I'm not necessarily going to give you words as to what you say, because the most important thing is intention. And how do we acknowledge intention in our everyday lives? So that as we are intentional, that helps us to then become conscious of the things that we're doing, so we're not just becoming robots and just doing it but actually doing it because we know and we understand and wish to connect. Notice I said wish to connect. So, yeah. And so that's what I'll be covering, and I think I'll be doing it in a few things. So one, I'll do a session around karakia, a session around karakia and gratitude, and then a session around rituals, different types of rituals, different pure, and then also a session around ceremonies, which should get us to at least whiro, if not to tangaroa for the hautapu itself. And then we'll start a fresh new season, hopefully with something that you guys have inspired me and given me to do. So just a background again. This is Ceremonies and Ritual, episode 1, and we'll be doing about 3 or 4 episodes on this kaupapa to help guide us through how we connect to our atuatanga and wairuatanga. And for those of you that already know, kapai, you don't need this. But mindful of how many people are wanting tools, and the tools that I'll share are really basic tools, or I'll direct you to go to other places, because there are a heap of other places that have got some pretty amazing tools already. So ka te ake, e te iwi, e mihi ana kia tātou. I got an email just to close off from somebody this evening asking about do they say hune, or do they say pipiri, or maruaroa down south. And what I said is it's important to focus in on the difference between the Gregorian calendar and the Māori lunar stellar calendar. Rangi Mātāmua does some great kōrero on that, so I don't need to cover that. Check the cousin out. But my response to her was, and I support what Rangi's saying, is June is hune. Yes, in the late 90s, the revival of the old names happened. I used to say 1 or pipiri 2021. I've now reverted back to 1 or hune 2021. Otherwise, I'd be saying kore kore tuatoru or haratua, because we're in the kore kore phase, third kore kore night, I think. Yeah, it is. Third kore kore night in the haratua phase, and we're getting ready to move into pipiri in about 9 or 10 days' time. So, yeah, just wanted to note that to support the kōrero that's already been out there. And finally, first fruits of kaianake. So it's the first fruits of whatever you're doing. Yes, kai, and that could also be your hunting, you know. You go hunting and you, if you fish daily, you're not giving a fish away every day, but you give the first fish of that season, because there'll be different fish that you catch at different times. So the first fish of that season you give away. And if you're with others that don't practice that, then you have to find your own way to do that. And where we come from, we give everything back to maru. And I've spoken about maru already. But, you know, it's your first thing that you make. You give that to someone else, because what that's teaching you is to hone your skills even more. And don't focus in on your first, but focus in on that you must continue the practice. So firsts are a big thing in our culture, and I think, thanks for the question, Matt. I'll ask more about that going forward. Ka te ake. Have a good night, everybody. Take care. E mihi kauatu ana kia koutou. And I'll finish off with a little karakia. Tēnā koutou. Kia ora tātou katoa. Purutia te tāuro o te rangi kia tīna kia wēnā kia toko te manawa ora. Manawa ora ki te pua, manawa ora ki tauito. Manawa ora ka puta ki wao, ki te wai au, ki te ao marama. Turuturu o iti o ka maua kia tīna. Hui e tai kie. Tai kie kia tātou. Tēnā tātou. Pōmari.